Can you give me like 45 seconds? I'll be right back.
Yeah. Go ahead. Do you think? Do you think? Welcome into the Coach Ty Show, hosted by me, Coach Ty. We have a special guest today, y'all. We have a special guest. Zach's here from KSR, man, and every year, the guys. I just want to say, man, I got a special guest, man. He didn't have to do it. This man is working nonstop, man. He's here to bless us with his, presence. The man. I mean, the one thing that I remember just seeing him is the hair. Hey, man, you got the best head of hair in the whole KSR, man. I don't care what they say. You got the best head of hair there, man. But yes, hey, Zach, thank you so much for, being here. Thank you so much for, doing this. Let's get right into it. What do you think about this season?
Well, first of all, let me give you a quick thank you for having me on and everything, and giving me a shout out for my hair. It's easy when my competition is someone like Nick Roush. My hair can stand out a little bit more compared to other people. But yeah, I appreciate it. Especially when I was bartending too and everything. My hair was almost like a selling piece for me back in my early 20s. So I appreciate you having me on. And
how much money? What's the highest amount of money you made bartending? What's the amount?
Ooh. So I worked at Malone's in Lexington, the one over by Hamburg. So it really just depends. Man, if there was a Friday night and Keeneland was going on and there was a football game or something, you're talking $500-600 on a really solid night or something like that. So, but those were kind of few and far between. But yeah, those were some lucrative days. I don't miss it, but sometimes I do a little bit. I don't miss working until 1 a.m. Trying to get drunk people to get out of a building. So that I don't miss that part of it too much.
I'm with you because I work third shift. So I work third shift, and then I come and do this. And so I mean, Friday we had a car blow up in the parking lot, literally,
what?
I'm being dead. Nicholasville Road. I ain't gonna say where I work, but there was literally.
I'm trying to think if I saw a news article, but I feel like I heard something about this semi-recently. All right, tell me the story real quick.
Okay, so we're in there working and whatnot, and all of a sudden a dude runs by screaming, "Hey, move your car, move your car." There's a car on fire. Literally, it's in flames. The car beside it blows up. The car that's on fire blows up, and there's three of us out there running, trying to grab our cars to move them to the other side of the parking lot, fire trucks and everything. This happened 4 a.m. on Saturday morning. It was the most craziest thing. I've never seen a car blow up, but now seeing it like sparks and everything, I ain't never in my life
seen
seen
the movies.
It was the movies. We had two idiots out there with fire extinguishers trying to put it out. You idiot! What are you doing? Get y'all butt back in here.
Do much.
That ain't gonna do nothing. Fire people pulled up and they yeah, hey man, back up. Let me do it.
Did you know the people that own the
cars?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. They worked with us.
Man. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. I gotta know. Do you know how it happened or anything? Or
yeah, but I don't want to put somebody's business out there. But I'll tell you later. Yeah. It was it was bound to happen. I'll just say it like that. It was bound to happen.
Gosh, that's crazy.
Oh, it was wild. But
hopefully everyone's safe at least, or came out unscathed besides the cars.
Yeah, everyone did. Just a little some hurt egos, but hey, it is what it is. You should have known better. You know better, you do better.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy, sir.
Oh, it's wild. Like the things that happen at night. I can see why us coaches say don't go out past 11 because bad things happen.
Yeah.
There you
Cars
go.
blow up at 4 a.m.
Hey, look, what's the worst?
Come on.
What's the worst? And a Kroger's parking lot, right beside the gas station.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, that would have been bad. That'd have been terrible. But let me hop into the UK. So what is your thoughts about going to the season? Because I got strong opinions about this.
I'd say I feel more confident going into this season about what is actually what the roster looks like on paper. I was actually having this conversation with somebody yesterday. I was like, going in, I was trying to think back to my thoughts of last season's team, because obviously things didn't go the way they everyone expected. The injuries kind of played a huge part in that as well. But I was trying to think of like, okay, what was like the one thing that I was thinking about last season going into the team? And I was trying to convince myself that the shooting wasn't going to be an issue. And then as the season kind of got along, the shooting did become an issue. And so far, I don't think that's my thing with this team. I think if there's anything, it's maybe the rebounding I'm a little bit worried about. I think that might be one area that they're still kind of lacking a little bit, just because your threes and your fours aren't necessarily perennial rebounders. Njai, McBride, Milan, Cam Williams, whoever it is. Njai is probably the best rebounder of the group. And then you've got the big men, Malachi and Big Frank. Those are probably the guys you're going to be leaning on to get a bulk of the rebounds. They do have positional size, so maybe it doesn't matter too much. They can bring the guards down and it can help out that way. But the rebounding is one thing I do still kind of worry about. But overall, as a whole, I like the roster fit. I think the offense is going to be much smoother than last season. I think it's going to be more of a Pope style, run up and down the floor, shoot a bunch of threes. I don't know if they'll get to that 33 pointers per game that Pope wants to, they keeps talking about, but I think they'll get close to it. Milan by himself can get a third of those or a quarter of those if he really wants to. So I do at least think offensively, it's going to be more of a smoother product, something that MARKPOPE is a little bit more suited to roll out with. And hopefully, with no injuries, the depth should be there as well. It should be a little bit better that way. So I do think, I could easily see this being a preseason top 15 team by the time we get to those rankings and everything. And I think that's probably a good starting point for this squad. But yeah, just overall on paper, it feels better this time last year compared to last year, at least.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think this, like you said, this team is fitted for Pope a lot more than last year's team, because last year's team, I feel like a little bit they just threw stuff at the wall to see if it would stick. And I mean, that's the way it came about. Yes, injuries happened, but I also kind of fault them for not having a backup point guard. That was just, you can't put, and I say this all the time, you can't put Jasper in that spot and expect him to succeed. He was put in a rough spot. It is what it is. It's 50 people hate him, 50 people like him. It just is what it is. But this team right here, I think, is way more tailor-made for Pope. And I think it puts a little bit more, it puts a lot more pressure on him, because as a fan base, we expect excellence. It's Kentucky. I mean, we expect excellence. We expect the best of the best. Do you think Pope is, and I asked Steven this as well, do you think Pope is feeling that this season?
In terms of the
pressure.
The offensive,
just the pressure.
Oh, the pressure in general.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, yes, I definitely do. I think that's why getting Milan was such a kind of a big relief as well there. That was, I think UK probably had the biggest offer there. They were probably recruiting him the hardest. They kind of knew the stakes of not adding a player like that. Because then if you don't add Milan, and now you're having the whole off-season situation with Cam's foot, where he still does not seem to be fully healthy yet. Who knows exactly when that's going to happen? So you kind of got a little bit of a question mark there. Then you have Braden Hawthorne is still kind of an unknown, just didn't play all last season. So there were kind of some holes at that 3 spot, and be able to bring in a guy like Milan really, at least, for the fan base and for Pope, it makes it more believable that, okay, that things can maybe be a little, you could turn things around a little bit easier, or not easier, but there's a bigger chance of things working out more this season than they did last season in particular. Like if you can get back to more of what was happening in that year 1, where it was kind of more of a Pope style offense, it felt like, where it was the running up and down, injury still infected that team. So I think that's, and if you're Pope too, you kind of think like, my first 2 seasons were just injury riddled. Like, I need a full year before I can really, maybe assess myself as a coach here. And a lot of fans might think that. A lot of fans probably don't think that. But I'm kind of willing to give him at least a little bit of the benefit of the doubt there. But I still assume he's feeling a lot of the pressure. I do think adding Milan and getting Ryan Hampton to commit kind of in back-to-back helped, especially with the whole Tyron Stokes debacle and kind of how all that played out. Because it did feel like there was kind of a 180 switch in how he was perceived on the recruiting trail within that week of getting, because I think he had Malachi come back as well, kind of in that around the same time as well. So that kind of helped push him along here. And now you've like we talked about off the jump, you have an offense that you can kind of see working more with what he wants to do. So I'm sure he's feeling the pressure, but he probably feels a little bit less pressure now than he did, say, a month ago or 6 weeks ago, whenever it was, when things were still kind of up in the air. Would have been nice if they could have found a way to land the Costa Rica kid from overseas, but obviously he's going to UCLA. They landed him. That's fine. I'm still not entirely sure what his first 17-year-old season will look like in college. I tend to believe that he's going to be really good. So I guess that's still kind of an unknown there. But Yeah, I'm sure he's feeling the pressure, but it's probably a little bit less as the season goes along, or as the summer goes along. And hopefully he's seeing the same. His vision is coming to life a little bit more as practices roll along here.
Yeah, and I was very hard on Pope when he went radio silence. I thought that was a terrible idea, in my opinion. I think, especially with as much as the Big Blue Nation wants to hear, they want to be involved. I mean, it is what it is. The most craziest fan base of all time. They want to be involved, and it's kind of like Pope. I felt like Pope kind of just pushed him away a little bit and kind of regathered himself, and then came back with the questionnaires. I thought that was a great strategy. And then we're starting to see the beard, dark Pope, and he's kind of playing into that a little bit. But in that little short frame of him not speaking to the media and not really anybody, do you think that was kind of a smart thing to do, or kind of what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, as someone in the media, like, I love when the coaches and players talk to us, because it gives us things to write about. Like, that's the whole job of what we're doing, is to write about what's going on. So that gives us things to talk about, and you get a little bit more clarification on some things as well. Like, Pope did the whole KSR interview with Matt Jones and Drew and him, and I thought that was pretty informative. There was only a couple of times where I was like, I felt like he was politicking. For the most part, though, I thought he was giving straightforward answers. And just addressing some of the things that have kind of been left open or out in the ether, like you said, like where there is kind of the radio silence of, okay, he's not talking, so why aren't they doing a summer trip? Why aren't they doing the summer camps? What about adding another player? There's still an assistant coaching spot to be filled. Like, so there was all those things just kind of sitting there unanswered, and he was, I can understand why there would be some frustration with that. Especially from my view, because we want to know, like, fans want to know, if everyone wants to know what's going on within the program. This isn't a program where you can just kind of tuck your tail between your legs and not say anything and wait until October comes around. But also on the flip side, a part of me is like, it's what's it really going to solve?
Right.
How much is it going to actually solve? Like, whatever he says right now in July is not going to help him win games when the season comes around. So how much of that stuff really does matter? But that's part of why you come to Kentucky, is you're under the limelight all the time. You're going to be asked tough questions. You're going to have to come out and deal with it. You got to come out and face it. You're getting paid a lot of money. So you need, if answering questions from the media is too much for you to do every, few weeks or a couple months, then the job probably isn't for you in the first place. But I do think that I don't think we're to that point. Like, I think he does enough media stuff right now in the offseason that it doesn't bother me too much. He'll come out and talk probably at the end of the month or in August or something like that. He'll give us another sit down interview with the local media. So there's kind of like, I'm on both sides of it. Like, I understand why he needs to go and talk, because that's the job, and there's a massive starving fan base that wants all the answers and everything. But at the same time, it's not going to help him win basketball games. It's not really going to solve anything. It's short-term PR bumps, which I feel like that program probably could use right now. Is just any sort of PR bump you can get, you should probably take advantage of. And I think that's why they ultimately went through with, the KSR interview. He talked with John Rothstein a couple weeks ago. A few weeks before that, he went on Norlander's show on CBS. So he has kind of done stuff. It's maybe still a little bit few and far between. And we'll see, I guess. And maybe part of that was still just building the roster,
Right.
Just didn't have a roster in place, and you don't want to talk about the team when you still got all these potential spots to fill. So it feels like they're probably done with the roster, unless there's like a random reclass kid, which is becoming more and more of a thing, as we've seen over the last few weeks. So who knows at that point? Like, there are a lot of 27 options out there that could potentially reclass. So maybe that's something he's still waiting for. Maybe he wants to fill the assistant coaching role before he starts, talking more. But so yes, that's a long-winded way for me to say that I'm on both sides of like, I understand both arguments, and I'm not gonna bash anyone for thinking one way or the other, really.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I mean, like I said, I was kind of on the fence of, hey, I wish you would have said something, because when you don't speak, the lies become, just bound, and he's getting ready to be, what I'm saying? Not he's getting fired, but I'm saying, like, the lies become so loud than the truth. Then when you speak, you're like, okay, it kind of clears the path out a little bit more. My biggest takeaway of the whole offseason was getting Mo Williams. I thought getting Mo Williams was arguably the best thing Pope has done. I mean, people say I'm wrong. In since his tenure at Kentucky, that's the best thing, because I think we all know Pope is a little bit dirty. Pope really, and we've heard that Pope doesn't, relate to the kids. But when you get somebody like Mo, who's been there, who's, been in the, in the trenches, where's what we wear, you can talk to him, I thought that was the best, pickup that Pope could have.
Yeah, honestly, I don't think I can disagree. I mean, depending on how, if Milan turns into a first team LSEC guy, you'd probably lean that way. But I mean, I from a recruiting standpoint, I mean, it's hard not to agree with that because he's come in and immediately has injected the program with a recruiting I don't even know what people believe that Kentucky can get it done now, and in part because Mo Williams, he's got the nickname the closer. That's not just talk. His son Mason, who I'm very excited about, I think is going to be a good player on the team next season as like a backup guy. His son said in interviews earlier this summer that he just knows how to talk to the kids. Like, obviously having a 17-year-old son going through the same process, I'm sure helps, but he was a head coach at Jackson State for 5 years. He's done a lot of recruiting. He's been in the NBA for 8. Like, if you see this little Cavaliers pennant over here, like, I'm a big Cleveland Cavaliers fan. So I remember watching Mo Williams play in the All-Star game in 2009 and then come back and win a championship in 2016. So like, I know that this guy has some, what the kids say, aura around him. Right. Like, they might've not remembered watching him play and everything, but they know his name. They know his track record. He can obviously relate to these kids really well. Ryan Hampton credited Mo Williams for helping get it done. Every time we're talking to recruits now, they're all mentioning Mo Williams and Coach McLean as well. Mikhail McLean deserves a shout out. He's both on the floor and off the floor. He's been awesome. He'll probably be a head coach sooner rather than later at a college place in the next few years. But Mo Williams is, I'm sure the on the court development helps as well. Being a point guard, like, that probably helps as well with someone like Zoom and Alex Wilkins and his son, and even Jerome Morton, like getting those guys a little bit more polished. I'm sure there's that aspect to it as well, but it's tough to deny the fact that he's come in here and just immediately helped change the recruiting narrative surrounding Kentucky and helped boost Pope up a little bit, being like, okay, like, maybe MARKPOPE isn't the one at the closing table, Mo Williams is, but together they're figuring things out. They're making it work. Like, you get Milan and Ryan Hampton kind of in back-to-back succession there. Like, it's hard to not be like, okay, those were 2 pretty big wins. So we'll see how it all, like, what his on the court impact is with being an actual coach and how he's able to develop the kids and everything. I'm sure they all love him. At least from early conversations, it sounds like they all do. So he's a massive addition because he can do things on the staff that some of the other guys just maybe weren't as good at, in terms of being able to just relate to these kids, connect with them, and then make them feel like they're wanted at Kentucky. So yeah, big shout out to Mo Williams. He's been awesome so far. And just a guy, it's funny looking back now. I was rooting for him when I was 10 years old, and now here I am covering at Kentucky. It's just kind of a weird full circle moment.
I would say, is that a full circle? Seeing him play with LeBron, seeing him, being the All-Star. Now you're pretty much, covering him as a coach. Is it weird?
Well, so because Jackson State came to Kentucky Pope's first year. Mm-hmm. So I remember being down there on the floor, and I was like, talking with my buddies and everything, or my coworkers, and they're all like, hey, there's Mo Williams. Like, you watched him and everything. I was like, would it be stupid? Like, would it be lame if I went up there, like, unprofessional, and asked him for a picture? And they're like, no, dude, go. Like, how many times can you, like, take a picture with Mo Williams? Like, that's someone you watch growing up. So I have a picture on my phone that I have referenced a couple of times. Where like, I got a picture with Mo. And then 2 years later, now he's here coaching. So that's even kind of weirder from that aspect. Next time I'll see him, be like, hey, do you remember the weird kid that was on Rep Arena's floor and was asking for a picture a couple years ago? Yeah. Do you remember me? Like, now I'm here writing about you. So, if I say anything mean, let me know, and I'll address it that way. But so it is funny, but basketball is kind of small circle stuff. Like, really, it all kind of comes back around at some point, some way. So I'm happy to have him on board. I think MARKPOPE is happy to have him on board, and I think the fan base is happy to have him on board.
Yeah, no, you're right. And that's what a lot of people don't realize, that this basketball, community is small. Like, I'm watching kids that I have coached, when they was in high school. Now they become coaches, or, what I'm saying? It's like, oh my God. Yeah. Like, it's like it kind of puts you in the age of like, oh, now I'm officially unk now. It's sad. But let's switch to the players a little bit, because you said I watched you and Brand's breakdown of Mason Williams, and I'm I'm very intrigued. I didn't see this. I mean, I kind of saw it a little bit, like maybe like a grain of salt, but now like hearing people talk about him, seeing the breakdown, and I'm like, okay, this kid might be onto something.
Yeah, I think when he originally committed it, we basically just did like some highlight watching and things like that. Everyone looks good in the highlights and everything. But when Brandon and I did our Zoom action show, that was when I was like, okay, let's pull up some full games and like see what we can find here. See why was he ranked so lowly and all that stuff. And I think there's a lot of factors, and we covered it in the Zoom action. I'll just kind of make it brief about it. Like, he was already committed to his dad, so why recruit him at that point? He's not leaving. He did have schools kind of on him, like I think Memphis was one. There was like 4 or 5 different other schools. I'm forgetting them. I think Mississippi State, like schools that came on, like Power 4 schools that came on to him kind of late in the process to see if they could get him to flip. Played at Puma, so it wasn't like in front of or was it Puma or maybe Under Armour? So not in the Nike, not in the Adidas AAU circuit. So maybe not as many eyes. He's going to his dad, so there's like, they're not going to care if you don't bump him up to, the 60th ranked kid in the country. He's fine saying a 120, 110, whatever. But then there was a game in particular I watched when he played Prolific Prep, nationally known prep school down. They're now in Florida. They had Caleb Holt, Bruce Branch, Davion Atkins, and Nasir Anderson. So 3 5-stars and a 4-star up and down that roster. They all played against Mason Williams' Tennessee Collegiate Academy team last season, and Mason was arguably the best player on the floor. Like at 20 points, 5 boards, 5 assists. Was playing good defense. Just found pockets of space. Like he can shoot the ball well. He can get paint touches. He's built like a fire hydrant. I mean, he's 6'3", 210 pounds. Like he's built in like a Kyle Lowry type mold, or however, at least physically. Or Jalen Brunson is maybe maybe a little bit thinner, but still like big, stocky, like point guards that you can see kind of like being able to translate to college easy because they're already physically ready for it. But I do think that, after watching that game, I was like, okay, he's not scared of the moment. He rises to the occasion. He wants to win games. He won a couple of state championships when he was in high school. But I thought everything I saw from him, I was like, okay, this kid should have been ranked higher than 120 or whatever he was. He probably should have been, he's not a 5-star or anything, and I don't think he's going to come in and play starting minutes immediately. But I think there's no reason that he can't be a 5, 8, 10 minute per game guy off the bench, kind of off the bat as your backup point guard. Come in and just not really screw things up, just keep things steady and under control. I feel like he's got a good head on him. Like sometimes when he would get into the lane a little bit, it felt like he could kind of lose his eyes a little, maybe, every now and then. But for the most part, I thought he was just a really smart basketball player. When we interviewed him, he did local media. I think he was one of the first 2 players to do it back in, I guess this was June now. But a couple of things stood out to me with Mason when he was talking. One, our friend Jack Pilgrim with KSR, he asked me, he said, if you could tell Mason Williams one thing 3 years ago, like what would you say to him? And he was like, I would tell him to take basketball more seriously. He's like, because I'm good at it now. He's like, if I had taken it more seriously 3 years ago, like imagine where I'd be right now. Like, I'd be a lot better than I am because I put in a bunch of work. And then that was the next thing that came was like, okay, what do you want to be known here? Because I want to be the hardest worker to ever come through Kentucky. I'm like, okay, you're hitting all I know you're PR trained and your dad's a coach and everything, but you're hitting all the boxes right now of of the buzzwords that you want to with the fan base and everything. So, and I believe all that stuff because he has, the pedigree of it. He comes from a family like that. So I believe that he is a hard worker. And now that he's taking basketball seriously over the last year or so, like, he probably would have been much higher ranked if he was kind of tapped in, when he was, say, a freshman or whatever it was and didn't wait until he was a sophomore or junior. So it might still take him a little bit to maybe get adapted and to be able to be like, a high level guy. But I would not be shocked at all if a couple of years from now he's a starting point guard at Kentucky or doing whatever, like just a very, very productive, steady college, like Power 4 level point guard. I think that he has a real chance to do that. Hopefully it's at Kentucky. You just never know with the transfer portal now. Like even if his dad's here, you just never know. So that's why I caution to like project him to be here 4 years from now. But if if Mason Williams is here 4 years from now, I think he'll be a starting point guard here and he'll be really, really good. So I'm a big fan of him. I'm trying not to like be like, oh, this kid's the best point guard on the floor. Like I think he is just going to be like a backup still because it is going to take him some time to kind of translate a little bit everything over. But I'm high on him, especially after watching the tape. I know Brandon likes him as well. Like if Brandon and I, if we don't like a prospect or anything, like you can kind of tell by the way we're talking. Like we'll kind of tiptoe around things and be like, if he can do this and that, like with Mason
Yeah.
Williams, it was like, we've seen, like, we believe it. So with him, it's just a matter of how long is it going to take for him to get there. And I don't think it's going to take too long.
And something you've heard it probably too. Something us coaches say is the eye in the sky don't lie. That camera don't lie. You can chop up any type of video to make you look like a 5-star prospect, but then go out there and can't hit a left-hand layup or shoot a 15-footer. But if you watch a full game footage, you can start to pick up on small little details. What is his footwork? Where's his hip placement? Where is he catching the ball? Is he this? Is he that? And once you start seeing those things, then you can kind of prospect like, okay, he's going to be able to play. And that's why I love y'all's breakdown show, because I'm sitting there like, okay, yeah. You know what I'm saying? I'm kind of going back and forth with y'all like, okay, yeah, I like that. Yeah, that's right. What about this right here? But as far as a starting point guard, one person that I am very, very intrigued is Zoom. And from what I heard from Steven, and when y'all when they was talking to the media, Zoom literally held y'all up for a couple minutes because he lost a game and wanted to play again. And he was like, nah, bring y'all's butts back here. We about to do it again. And when I heard that, I said, that's that dog. That's that dog we haven't had in a while. That's that junkyard dog that we need, that voice that we need. We don't need just Pat, good job. Nah, get y'all's butt back here. Tell me a little bit more about Zoom.
Yeah, I think that was the first thing that we kind of heard about him when he was initially looking at Kentucky and everything was, okay, you're not going to have like a leadership work ethic issue with Zoom Diallo. Like, you can question all the other stuff, like why weren't they winning many games at Washington last season? They were just like, you want to talk about injuries. Like, poor Washington was absolutely decimated by injuries last season. Like, I think Zoom was one of 2 players that played every game for them last season. So you can shove some of that away a little bit, overlook it, but the work ethic and the leadership was the first things you heard about him when you were like reading any sort of Washington articles and things like that, or like how they were kind of talking about him through his 2 years there. And that has not changed since he's gotten here. Like, MARKPOPE has said it. All the players have said it. Like, Malachi Moreno was like, yep, all Zoom and Big Frank do is just scream and yell all day during practice. Like, all those guys want to do is just, they want to make a game out of everything. If it's ping pong, bowling, pool, like they want to make it into a competition, to a 2K. It's all about a competition. Like you said, practice scrimmages, like if they lose, they're running it right back again. You want to do all that again. So, and even when we've heard Zoom in these interviews and everything, he just talks like a point guard, just like talks like a guy that knows, he's been 2 years of Power 4 conference basketball, so he knows what he's doing. He knows how to talk, but he just talks like a leader. Like, doesn't hesitate when he's talking. Like, everything kind of has a point to it. He's not like just gonna media BS his way through stuff. Like, he'll give you some real answers and everything. So I'm really excited about him. Him and Alex Wilkins together, I do think, is like, when those two signed to Kentucky initially in the offseason, I'm like, okay, I feel so much better. Like, I automatically feel very good about those two being the starting backcourt. Going into next season, because I think my big thing was you had to get 2 players that were better than Ortega and Denzel Aberdeen from last season's team. I don't know if Zoom and Alex Wilkins are, at least maybe points wise they might not be better, but I think the way that they're better ball handlers. They're going to be able to get into the paint better. They're going to be able to create better. Creators is MARKPOPE's big buzzword. So those 2 guys, I think they're just going to be a better fit for what Pope wants to do. And I was, especially Denzel was amazing the way that he was kind of thrown into his point guard role last year. Ortega is obviously awesome. He is the definition of the first 2 years of the Pope era. But I do think that Zoom and Wilkins are going to be a little bit of a better fit. They're going to be able to work better in the SEC. They're bigger guys. They should be able to score a little bit. I think just getting into the paint and being able to kick out to shooters is going to help, and having shooters around them will also help. Because Ortega and Denzel maybe didn't have too much of that outside of Colin and whenever Cam Williams was not having a broken foot. So I'm really high on Zoom Diallo. I think he's going to be fun. I would love to see him get those shooting numbers up a lot. He's going to be a mid-range guy. Like, he's going to shoot a lot of mid-range shots, but he's efficient with them. So that's if you're going to take these shots, you need to make them at over like a 50% clip. I think he was right around 50% or something on his mid-range shots last year. And that's, I'm all for that, because I do think I'm not one of those, the mid-range is a dumb shot. It's analytically, like, there's a lot of value in the mid-range shot. And if you can knock it down, you're going to open up just even more pockets of space for everybody else. So I think his ability to get into the paint and create an attack is really going to help Kentucky, and then be able to drive and kick. Like, Milan's going to get a bunch of catch and shoots. Justin McBride will get some catch and shoots out there. Even Alex Wilkins or whoever else is out there shooting with him. So I'm very high on Zoom Diallo. I don't know if he's like an all SEC level point guard, but I think he's going to be healthy. Like if he's healthy, that's just already a step up from last season's 100%. Situation. And then just his ability to, especially at the end of the last season, like dribbling was just an issue for the backcourt. Like especially in that Iowa State game, no one could dribble the ball, and that was just part of the issue. Especially in that second half, they couldn't get the ball across half court. So when you're looking at games like that, like those are the games you want to win. So what went wrong in that game? Well, in that game, they just couldn't dribble the ball. That's half of basketball is being able to bring the ball up the floor. Right. So now that you've got guys that can do that, I feel a little bit better of like, okay, when you get into the tournament, I will feel more confident having Alex Wilkins and Zoom Diallo back there, running the show and handling the ball, maybe a little bit better than I would with Ortega and Denzel, even though those guys, Ortega could get to the rim at will. Like it's just a little bit different dynamic. And I think it's one that'll benefit Mark Pope's offense.
Yeah, and when I was watching Zoom, I saw that he is able to get to his spots on the court with ease, and he's strong enough to. And I'm a firm believer of it's not the first bump that you take; it's the second and third. Can that second bump knock you off course? That third bump knock you off the course? And I see he's using his hips, he's using the power, and taking those bumps and finishing and being really strong. I saw some of that kind of like in the little breakdown videos that UK's putting out, the little highlight reels. I'm, passing to Milan. Milan's hitting the three. And I'm seeing intangibles of a point guard that we actually needed last year. And that's something that I'm like, this is a total upgrade from last year. Yes, last year we had injuries. I understand that. But if we had this last year, I think it would be a totally different nucleus. You touched on Alex. I was the first one that jumped off the bandwagon and said that's the guy. That if he has and I watched the film on one of the shows, and I was just like, man, there's things that if he can do at the SEC level, he is the guy. He's the guy that's going to go off at times, and we're just going to be like, wow, because he can score in so many different type of ways. So, what do you see in him?
Yeah, I think he's one of I think there's a few like wild card or X factor type guys on the team of Njai is one. I think what's he going to be able to provide and bring. Alex Wilkins is definitely another. Just because I like that UConn game when he was playing the first half of that UConn game in the NCAA tournament, he was the best player on the floor. He was amazing. They kind of keyed in on him a little bit more, but also he's still playing at Furman. He doesn't have UConn level players around him, so it's understandable that maybe they could trap him up a little bit. He didn't go to the NBA or anything, so he's not he wasn't an NBA player last season, but I definitely think he can get there. And you're seeing some of the the SGA comparisons with just kind of being a bigger guy who has a slick, silky kind of dribble, dribble package and things like that. I think he's going to be good here. I don't know. I think there's just different ways it can go for him. I think his floor is still a good player. Mm-hmm. But I think the floor, I think the floor and the ceiling, the odds of getting there are probably about the same. But the ceiling, I think, is way up there. Yeah. It's just hard to know with guys that come from a level like that. The UConn game I think really helped. I was able to watch. There was a couple of other Furman games I was able to watch. They had a preseason game against Alabama where he looked pretty good in some of those situations as well. That's obviously preseason, but still a Power 4 opponent, so you can kind of take a little bit from that. And then there was another game on early in the season of his freshman year where he wasn't kind of the guy yet, and he was making some mistakes along the way. I feel like he probably just really shored some of those issues up as the season went along. And he's not going to be asked to be the guy. He's not going to be asked to go out and take 15 shots a game. But he's still the guy that I just don't really have pegged right now. And it's just, I'm not going to know until I feel like I see him. It could just go so many different ways with him. I think he's locked in as the starting 2 guard next to Zoom there. Mm-hmm. And I do think that those two will be able to play well off each other. I never really buy into is there enough basketballs to go around? A good basketball coach can figure that out. And I at least think that basketball mind wise, Mark Pope is a good coach. I think he can figure that out. And those two guys don't seem, at least Zoom as well. He's going to be totally fine being able to dish the ball off and let Alex, do his thing. I feel confident in that too. So it's just going to be a matter of, is he going to be big and strong enough? I think for him next season, for Alex, is he going to be big and strong enough to come in and really do some of the similar things where you're getting to the rim and everything. And he's got to be able to shoot a little bit better. I think he's the one guy where you like Zoom. I don't think needs to shoot 38% from three. Alex Wilkins, I think, probably needs to get closer to that. I think he was at 32 or 31 or 33, something like that last season, a little bit lower. So needs to bump that up a little bit. But yeah, I'm high on both those guys, and I do like I said that. I just don't know. Like I'm interested to hear what you think Alex is going to look like next season, because I don't really have any idea of what it's actually going to look like for him, really.
For me, if like you said, he's got that wiry frame. He's got that little wiry frame that kind of scares me just a tad, because we know how physical the SEC guards are. You know, it's so much different than Furman. But if he could figure out how to create space and how to kind of get that shot off a little bit quicker, I think he can be that player that we need him to be. Because honestly, I think we need a little bit more scoring. Just my opinion. I think we do need that. I don't think we can. I mean, we can rely on Milan. We can rely on Malachi. But who's that third scorer? Like literally, who is that? Who's that other person that can actually, put it in the basket? And like you said, there's so many question marks. There's so many question marks with that right there. But I think if he gets comfortable, if he's able to find that groove and understand that he's not going to get, like you said, 15, 16 shots. So when you get that ball, you have to be efficient. You have to be able to make it on demand. If he can come into that role, I think he'll be fine. But I think he's going to bump his head a little bit during the beginning of the season. So I think that's what we're going to see, especially with him. And I think, like you said, Zoom isn't going to bump his head. Zoom knows what he needs to do, and Zoom's going to do what he does. Alex is still trying to figure out his way, I think. And, you're not going to be able to shoot every ball. You got somebody that's making almost maybe $6 million. I don't know what the real price is. He needs the ball, and he's going to shoot the ball. And if you look at any NBA team, the highest man shoots the ball. So like you're not going to have that. So I think if he gets into the rhythm and stuff like that, I think he'll be fine, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think ultimately he will. But like you said, I do think it might take him a little bit to maybe adapt a little bit to learn the game a little bit more. But having someone like a Malachi to just play some pick and rolls with, like maybe try and make life a little bit easier on you, so where you can, because he is a great, I know his turnovers were an issue last year. I'm willing to kind of overlook that a little bit, just with the whole situation of being the only guy at Furman essentially, and having to kind of own that conference by himself. But he's a winner. Like they won their conference championship. Like as a freshman, he was their best player. Like that's I think those things matter too when you're trying to project somebody to go up to the next level. So, but yeah, like the frame itself, it might take him a little bit. Like, I mean, he could have a great summer in the weight room too, and kind of mask some of those issues. But I wouldn't be shocked if it takes him, a few games or a few weeks or like a month or something to really kind of get into his groove. Whereas with Zoom, like we've said, like he just has a track record of putting up numbers for 2 straight years at Washington. He was a higher ranked recruit. He's been at I don't know if you saw some of the videos going around of him coaching up. I think it was like an Adidas Nike Hoop Summit thing, and he was coaching with or not he was coaching with, but Travis Perry was at this event, Malachi Moreno, and then Njai was also at this thing. And even then, when he was a 16-year-old or 17-year-old, junior or whatever, he was still the big leader and the obvious verbal motivator. So I don't see any ramp up period for Zoom. Whereas with Alex, I think it's probably more likely that it takes him a little bit just because of the background compared to Zoom.
Right. Now, let's talk about Malachi real quick. What did that was the big thing. I think that's what got the ball started, and that was what everyone wanted. What is your thoughts about him coming back?
Well, Pope said it was the biggest or most important thing of the offseason. He said it was that and then getting creators. So he did both those things. I mean, I'll say man, if Malachi didn't come back to Kentucky, it would I don't want to sit here and have the conversation about what it would have looked like, because by the time he does come back, there's the center position is kind of dried up at that point. Like Kentucky kind of was looking at some other backup centers at that point.
Right.
Before they got Big Frank, there was the kid. Well, I say kid. I think he was 25 years old. Santos. I think he was from Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
That was he ended up at LSU. That was the guy that they were kind of looking at. So, like, I don't want to think about what would have happened if they didn't get him, because then your center position is really in a bad spot. And then I think then it trickles down to everybody else.
Right.
Then your defense is probably going to be significantly worse. Your rebound's going to be significantly worse. Like, he's a great passing guy, so your offense is probably going to be, at least a chunk worse. So bringing him back was just huge. And, Malachi is a guy that I've been able to watch since he was a junior in high school at Great Crossing. And, he's never been a 5-star player. But what I'll say about him is every single year he gets significantly better at some aspect of his game. It's happened as a junior, a senior, and now a freshman. So I have zero reason to believe that it's not going to happen again. His big thing is he wants to work on his conditioning. He wants to, because I think he was around 21 minutes a game last season. He wants to get closer to 28, 30 minutes a game this season. A lot of that's conditioning. He said he's not doing the Taco Bell anymore, like no more late night food. Like he's got more of a stricter diet going. He's putting on good weight is what he's saying. So I think that's what it's going to come down to for him, most of it, because I felt like at the end of the last season, he was just getting tired.
Yeah,
he was just
100%.
getting worn down. The physicality of playing in the SEC for so long just started to get to him a little bit. So I think if he can get to the point where he can outlast a full 32 game regular season and still be going strong going into the postseason, I think he's going to be an all SEC center. I think he's going to put up great numbers. He's going to be arguably the most important player of the entire team, both offense and defense. So he's just got to work on his finishing. That's a big thing that I think that will just come with getting stronger and adding more good weight. Like you just got to be able to finish a little bit better. He just got to get a better second jump. You got to be able to have a third jump even. So I think he's got to improve on some of those smaller things. But like I said, all I've seen from this kid since he was 16, 17 years old was him get better and better. And I think he's working, like I mentioned, Coach McLean earlier. I think he's a great developmental position coach for him too. We've seen the dividends there so far. Even with Amari Williams coming, you can kind of go back to McLean having that track record too. So there's plenty of reasons to believe that Malachi is just only going to continue to get better and better. I wouldn't be shocked if he's averaging a double-double, at points throughout the season. At some point, maybe add on a couple blocks and a couple assists and things like that, and you're looking at a real all SEC level center. So I won't go the All-American route or best center in the country that Pope is trying to say.
I got my thoughts,
which I understand why he's doing that.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I understand the same thing that he's doing with Trent right now. Let's be all.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to do it. So times.
You got to do it, and I'm all for it. Back up your guy, hype him up. Malachi's got a good head on his shoulders too, so I fully believe that he's going to come in and he'll be Kentucky's most consistent player. I think from start to finish.
With coaching at Tate's Creek, you kind of, he was always there. You knew Malachi. I mean, it was what it was. Honestly, I'll be all the way honest. I didn't see him being this good, this quick. I just didn't. And that's just a testament to his hard work, his dedication. He's got good footwork. I think like you said, just watch him. His conditioning really needed work this year. Coming into this year, I think that he should be able to put the ball on the ground at least 3 dribbles. I think 3 at the most. Be at the top of the key. And I heard Mark Pope say something about maybe him initiating the offense. We'll see what happens with that. But being at the top of the key and being able to put the ball on the ground 2 or 3 times, getting to that rim, I think would open his game up so much more. Even if you watch him shoot, a lot of times it's just so slow and methodic. If he could speed it up just a tad, quit bringing it back here. But I mean, it is what it is. That I'm not. If it works, I'm not going to try to fix it. We're just going to try to make it go a little bit quicker. But if he could, stop on the dime, that's a lot of weight to stop. But if you could be able to take that 1 dribble pull up or something like that, that's going to open his game up so much, because now they got to come out on you, and he's agile enough to take 1 dribble and go by somebody. In my opinion, he's quick enough to do that, and his IQ for his passing. So once you're starting to spread that defense out, and those guys are cutting, and he can hit them, that's just going to improve his stock even more.
Yeah, I remember when he was a junior, I think I watched him play a high school on the Adidas event. I remember thinking, man, he's not to the point where I feel like he should be at this stage, And then I watched him next season at Rupp Arena in the state championship, and I was like, okay, he's obviously gotten a lot better, but he's still kind of like there's still some things he needs to work on. And then you see him as a freshman at Kentucky, and just it's all kind of slowly starting to come together a little bit. And now it's just I feel like at this point it's just kind of fine tuning some of this stuff. I'm interested to know, like you kind of mentioned him initiating the offense a little bit more. I don't think Pope is bluffing on that. I do think he's going to try and give him a little bit more free reign up top to let him, I don't how much will he, because he's hyped up all the creators and everything. I imagine you probably want to have the ball in Zoom and Alex Wilkins' hands a lot more, but I do think like I can picture the Zoom actions now coming all the time with Malachi and Milan or something like that, where like you said, you get Milan at the top or Malachi at the top, he takes a couple dribbles to get himself into a good position. Like, are you on that? Are you high on that idea or not so much?
I'm high on the idea. I am, because I trust him a little bit. I mean, he's been there. I trust him a little bit more than I would last year if he's in condition, because we know toward that tail end, if you're not in condition, that's when you start making mental mistakes. So I need you in peak position to be able to do these things. If I'm going to let you initiate the offense and do these actions, I need you at tip-top shape. But if I start seeing you hands on your knees, I start seeing you slow down. No, hey, Zoom, come on. Hey, get your butt, Malachi, get your butt on that block, 15 foot in, and stay right there. That way you ain't got to move as much. But no, I'm very high on that. At first, I was like, but then, I started thinking, man, I understand why he's doing that, because he wants his draft stock to improve. He's trying to make, do this for him. He's trying to give the keys to him and say, hey, listen, I believe in you. So I don't think he's going to be Amari Williams, but I think he's not going to be that quick. But like you said it best. He's not going to be that quick, but his IQ and his passing ability is what's going to make him a lot different than Amari.
Yeah, and Milan even said in some of the interviews earlier this summer, he's like, the one thing that's going to open up for me playing with Malachi that I didn't have last year is backdoor cuts. Like, I'm going to be able to, use my gravity on the wing to have guys bumped up on me. I'll get a screen or something, or I can just make a quick cut, and Malachi's going to be able to find me. I trust Malachi to make those passes. I think he can do that. Amari was like I don't know if you've been watching any of the summer league stuff, but he's like a real unicorn. I think he's just such a weird player, because he's 7 feet, 250 pounds, but he moves really well. Much better than Malachi does. He was just such a unique, awesome player to watch. So, but he didn't have the 3-point shot. Malachi doesn't have the 3-point shot, and both of these guys are still able to find ways to stretch the floor through their passing. So you have some tape with Amari. If you're Pope, you're like, hey, look at what Amari did. Let's try and, Amari was, especially when Lamont Butler went down, he was kind of like, he was basically the point guard for like 100%. The second half of the season, it felt like. And, he got ahead of himself a little bit, like making bad passes, trying to force the issue a little bit too much. So I don't think Malachi will have to do that. So he can maybe play a little bit more comfortably within his own skill set and what his own talents and what he thinks he's actually good at. So I definitely think he was 1.5 assists last season. I'll be shocked if that's not 2.5, 3 this coming season per game.
We're going to touch on a couple of players. I know you got to get out of here. I want to just talk about Milan. Do you think he's going to get them 10 threes up? I don't think he is. I don't think I'm still trying to figure out how he's going to get those 10 threes up. But do you think it's going to happen?
No, because that's just so many threes. Like, that is an insane.
Wild.
I think it was like 15 guys in college basketball did shoot. I think Ryan Conwell from Louisville was one of them who was able to fire off 10 threes a game. So like, it is possible. I can see it happen. I think he was at 7.5 per game last season. I do think that number will tick up a little bit. Like, it has to tick up.
Yeah.
And like the joke going around with Pope and Milan is like, if I'm shooting 48% from, or 49% from 3 again next season, like, something's wrong, because that means he's only shooting 6 a game or 7 a game. Like, he needs to be shooting 8 or 9 a game. I don't care if your 3-point percentage dips down to 45 or 44. Like, we just need you taking more. The more you take, the more it's going to help everybody else on the offense. Even if you make a few less, if your percentage dips a little bit. So, but he's got a 3-year track record of being an excellent shooter. Especially this past season, the sophomore season, he was even still like 42%. Milan's talked about how this is like kind of a higher, fast-paced offense, so like a little bit quicker. That's something that he enjoys. He likes to play in that. But it doesn't matter what the situation is. He's a 40% plus 3-point shooter on the catch and shoot, off the dribble, coming around screens. Doesn't pull up. It doesn't matter what it is. He's shooting over 40%. So you just got to get him the ball. You got to find ways to get him the ball. Like, he's not a guy that's going to attack the rim a bunch or get a bunch of rebounds or be like an excellent defender. So you got to find ways to make him effective. And I think that's why having creators and a guy like Malachi will just make life a little bit easier for him. He had Josh Jefferson and Lipsy. I think it was Lipsy was his name at Iowa State last year, who were really good at like getting him the ball. So if he can have similar guys like that here at Kentucky, I think he's going to be great. I think he's going to be an all SEC level player. Probably most of the season, he'll probably average close to, 15, 18 points a game, something like that. But I mean, he has to be good, and I don't have any reason to believe that he's not going to be replicate what he did last season as an all Big 12 guy at Iowa State. So I think he fits well with Pope's offense. I think that was probably a big, sticking point for Milan in the recruiting process, along with the big pile of cash that is now in his bank account as well, I'm sure. But
that always helps.
It definitely helps. But yeah, the fit, I think, like, it's basically like having a Kobe Brea that's probably just a better version of Kobe Brea, I think, is what you're looking at. Maybe a guy that can dribble the ball a little bit better, or maybe put the ball on the floor a little bit more than Kobe did. Kobe was even playing point guard a little bit when Lamont went out, which is just crazy to think about how that all unfolded. So I'd like Milan to just stick as a 3 or even a 4 in a pinch and not have to kind of move up and handle the ball more. But I think if he is, he's going to be awesome. He's just such a good shooter. And Mark Pope needs these good shooters. 33s a game is just so many. Like, I only think a handful of teams did that last year. I think Illinois was one, and then maybe one other Power 4 team hit the 30-plus 3-pointers per game mark. Like, that's a lot of threes. But if they do that, it'd be fun. Yeah. Man, it'd be so much fun to watch this team shoot up 33s a game. I just don't know if they have the personnel to really do that, though.
It'd be like watching Golden State. I mean, literally would be watching, like, Golden State just chuck up Steph Curry, Clay, even Draymond brick a couple. I mean, it's going to be, it's there's one kid that, I'm very proud of, Jerome Morton. I'm very proud of Jerome. I got to coach against him at GRC. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm very happy to see him, and I've heard really, really good things about him. What can you tell me about Jerome?
Yeah, Jerome's another kid that I've got to kind of like with you, like got to watch him in high school. More like another kind of weird full circle thing. Like, when he went to back-to-back state championships with GRC, like I was at both of those events. So I saw him win it the first time. Like I posted, whenever he committed, I posted a picture on Twitter of him holding the state championship trophy. And I was like, I know it's on my phone somewhere. So I scroll back 5 years ago and there it was. It's crazy to think about. But I remember him what I remember about the time when he was in high school is his coach, Josh Cook, who just won his second state championship for GRC this past season. Seems to be a good coach by all accounts.
Not only a good coach, but an amazing person. Him and head assistant Bryce Gomes. Funny part is Bryce Gomes used to drive me to school. Like we went to the same high school. So seeing them do this, I'm like, oh my God. Like, so I've known Bryce my whole life. So Josh Cook is just an amazing person. Not only just a coach, but just off the court as well.
Yeah, he's actually he's probably the only coach that is like, after the state championship this past year ended, he came by and thanked every single media member for being there and everything.
Yeah.
Coaches normally never do that. So that's something that I'll remember about him. But I remember when the first state championship was happening with Drone and GRC, when they won it, I guess that was 2021, maybe it was. So I think so. And then 22 they lost. So 21, he was like, because they had to play he had to guard Reed Shepherd and Travis Perry in back-to-back games in that setting. And Josh Cook was asked about it, and he was like, it could be LeBron James over there. Jerome Morton wants to guard. And, he's talking in hyperbole a little bit. He's like, Jerome Morton wants to guard him. He wants to guard the best player on the team. So it's like, okay, I like that already immediately. I know he tries hard. He seems like a kid that would have walked on his hands and or crawled on his hands and knees from Washington State to come play for Kentucky. He wants to be here. He knows what his role is going to be. He shot 38% from 3 last season. Like, I think he's going to come in and just be a very solid, steady backup guard, like exactly kind of what you need. And it kind of felt like he was going to be maybe like he could split time between the 1 and the 2, like maybe just not even have a role, just like be a guard, just go out there and whenever the ball comes your way, you can handle it. If not, whatever. I think the Mason Williams hype that we've been hearing is maybe even going to help Jerome a little bit more, because he can maybe play within himself a little bit. Like, I think Jerome and Mason Williams coming in, playing 5 minutes a game together can end up being a fun little backup tandem that comes in. Jerome's got some size. He was able to rebound the ball a little bit. He's able to pass the ball a little bit. He was basically a combo guard at Washington State. Like, he'd play off ball, he'd play on ball. So he can do a little bit of both. So I don't expect him to come in and, be a 20-minute per game guy, but I think he's going to be an excellent, exactly what you need, kind of off the bench type guard. So was perfectly fine with Pope adding him, and I think he'll be a good piece to the puzzle. But from everything I've followed from him ever since, even when he went to Morehead State and everything, I feel like he's another kid that has a good head on his shoulders, and I feel confident that he'll be a good piece for next season as well.
Well, Zach, I know you got to get out of here, but man, I just want to say thank you so much for, being on the show, man. It means a lot, I mean, just amazing work. I mean, just watching the breakdown videos and watching you, on Sources Say with Jack and everything, like man, I just want to say, man, you're doing an amazing job. Keep up that, man. And hopefully, maybe we can do this again soon.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate the kind words. You're making me blush a little, so I don't deserve it, but I do appreciate it a bunch. I really do, and all the support and everything. And I love coming on. I love talking about basketball. That's literally what I do for a living, is write and talk about basketball. So I would love to come on again and chit chat about whatever you want with Kentucky or whatever else, man. Basketball, like we're big on the high school scene, and we know what's going on.
100%, especially with you being a Cleveland fan, we'll talk about some LeBron stories here soon, like how LeBron came to the KBA back in the day, and I got to be security for him for a day. But we'll talk about that.
I got a quick story about that, actually. I remember when he was here for that, because Bronny was playing, right? I think that was the thing. It's like Bronny was playing in it.
Bronny was playing.
No, so this is a different time. This is a different story. But LeBron was here. Maybe it was when Bronny was playing. I forget. Sorry, I'm trying to keep it brief here. But I was working. This is when I first started working in the restaurants. This is about 10 years ago now. I worked at a place called Sal's Chop House in Lexington, and above they had like a banquet situation, and LeBron was here for something. And I don't think it was for Bronny's. Like that might have been more recently when he was here, but I remember him coming down. Everyone was like, "LeBron's coming down! Like he's done with his dinner." Him and his entourage were coming down, and we like looked and saw him. I saw LeBron walk down the steps through this little cubby hole that I was looking through, and he had he was holding like a young Bronny, like a tired Bronny, in his arms, and he was like, one lady asked like, "Hey, can I get a picture?" And he's like, "I got my kid with me. Like we're just going. He's asleep. We're heading out." So that's the one time that I actually saw LeBron in person. Was right there here in Lexington. So it's odd how many times he's been here.
It is good. I got to meet LeBron when he was here. His son was in the 4th grade state, the national championship. We hosted it, and that was right before he went to Miami. So he wasn't doing no interviews like around that time where interviews, nothing, no photos. Like we literally had this is how powerful LeBron is, and nothing against Coach Cal. Coach Cal came to sit with Bron and all of them. No one paid attention to Cal. It was all LeBron. Literally, we didn't have no security for Cal. It was all LeBron, and that's not a shot toward Cal, but it's just like LeBron's here. But we'll exchange some stories, man. I got plenty of stories for you, man. It's crazy.
Please, I got some too. Yeah, anytime.
All right, man. Thank y'all. Hey, we're out of here. I'll see y'all soon. Peace. All right, and we're off. Hey, man, thank you so much. Like I said, I try to keep it under an hour, man.
No, that's perfect. That's perfect. Yeah,
I try to,
have
man.
myself a little lunch here and then do some more work. So I appreciate you having me on.
Hey, man, thank you so much. Like I said, if you ever need anything, man, just feel free to reach out, man. I'll shoot you my number or whatnot, and if you ever need anything, man, just hit me up. I got whatever y'all need, I got you. Whatever y'all need.
Well, let me make sure I at least get. Is your last name Ty or is first name Ty?
First name Ty.
First name Ty. Okay.
Yeah, Ty.
Gotcha. Well, Ty, man, it was awesome to meet you. And hopefully do you do like a lot of like going out watching high school games and stuff like that?
So I killing me. So she's honestly, I haven't been out in a while to watch any of the high school games, but I'm going to be going back doing it this year because I just really like